Good afternoon and welcome back to this week's episode of The Locker Room. I'm your host, Jake Homan, and today we have a little special edition of The Dillon Show. We've got Dillon Leatherwood here and Dillon Clark. My main Dillon's here sitting with me today.
Said one Dillon's much better than the other one.
What do you want me to say to that? Thank you, I guess.
Anyways, I've got actually also the Barry Melrose of hockey sitting here with me today and the Stephen A. basketball. So
You're putting a lot on me there, Homer.
It is a lot of pressure.
It's blasphemous. Blasphemous.
But the reason I say that is because we're going to be talking about a little bit about the NHL playoffs and the NBA playoffs this coming, or actually the playoffs have already started for hockey, but basketball starting tomorrow. Anyways, I will start with hockey first. Dillon, what's a first round matchup right now that most intrigues you in this year's playoffs?
Well, I think once everybody watched the Tampa Bay Lightning play this season, they tie the single season record, the 95-96 Red Wings with 62 wins in a single season. Everybody's looking for them to say, like, all right, they're locked to win the Stanley Cup. But you saw Game 1 the other night. Columbus comes into Tampa Bay. They go down 3-0. Everybody's thinking, yeah, Game 1's a lock for Tampa. And then the Jackets storm all the way back. And I think the key for that game for Columbus was Sergei Bobrovsky. He struggled a lot in the playoffs in the past. He really found his game in the second period and backstopped the Jackets to a really stunning win in Game 1. So that's a series that I'm going to keep watching. Okay.
And what about the Capitals? I know the Capitals won the Cup last year. How do you feel about them this year? Do they have a shot at repeating, or are they destined for an early exit?
Well, they played their first game last night. They ended up winning 4-2 against Carolina, and the fourth one was an empty netter. It was actually a very close game. Carolina is a team that I've been looking at this year, and I think they can put up a much better fight than anybody really gives them credit to. I still think Washington is the better team. I can see them putting up a decent fight and going, Carolina will take them 6 or 7 games. I think Washington's going to get out of the first round. And after that, really the biggest test for them is what happens in the conference finals. They were able to beat Tampa Bay last year, and it's more than likely that they're going to meet either Tampa Bay or maybe Boston in the conference finals this year. If they can get through that conference finals round, then I think, they have a pretty good chance of winning the Stanley Cup. But don't discount how difficult the conference finals will be, regardless of who they play.
Right. And how do you feel about the Lightning? I know you said they have the best record in this season, best record since the Red Wings, you said, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about them? Are they going to be the champion this year, or do you go with someone else?
Well, it seems like every year for the past few years, they end up being one of the top teams in the NHL. They won the President's Trophy this year, 128 points. And the last team to win the Stanley Cup and the President's Trophy in the same year was the Chicago Blackhawks in that lockout-shortened 12-13 season. No one else has done it since, and it's actually been underwhelming these past few years for whoever has won the President's Trophy. They've really failed to meet expectations. And, I mean, you look at some of the names on this Tampa roster. You got Kucherov, Stamkos, Braden Point, and you can go all the way down. And every one of these guys, it's like, I want him on my team. And when these guys start playing together, they can beat anybody. But as we saw in Game 1 against Columbus, the playoffs are a different animal. So at this point, I can see it going either way. I can see Tampa just rolling through the Eastern Conference. They'd have to put up a decent fight in the Cup final. I can see them winning it, or honestly, if they were to lose in the first round against Columbus, I wouldn't be surprised. Just because, again, any team that can get hot at the right time can have success, and especially a John Tortorella coach team in Columbus, they're going to have that extra fire to them. So I think it's 50-50 for Tampa. I think if they get out of this first round, they're going to have a decent chance to win the Cup. But again, I can see Columbus shutting them down.
In that case, do you think there's anybody that has, like, if let's say the Lightning are the favorites to win it all this year, are there anybody that's going to be able to compete with them? I know you said it's 50-50, but like...
Well, in the conference finals, I think they'll have to go through Washington, and if they make it to the Cup finals, watch St. Louis. St. Louis, worst team in the NHL in December. They come all the way back. They end up claiming that third spot in the Central Division. They're playing Winnipeg right now. They're able to squeak out a 2-1 win in Winnipeg in Game 1. They've got the hot hand right now in the West, so if they can beat Winnipeg and get out of that first round with the rookie goaltender Jordan Binnington playing some of the greatest hockey between the pipes for St. Louis they've seen in a long time. If St. Louis can get out of that first round against Winnipeg, they're going to be tough to stop, and I can see them putting up a pretty decent Cinderella run here to make it to the Stanley Cup final.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, there you have it, folks. That's your NHL take for this week. Thanks a lot, Dillon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and back to the other Dillon, the worst Dillon. I'm sorry. No,
no, I'm not offended at all. I'm used to it.
Anyways, what are your thoughts on this year's NBA playoffs? Starting first game's tipping off at 12 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.
Yes, it is. So
Are there any first round matchups that are intriguing you this year?
One I'm really looking at would be Celtics and Pacers. Now, we remember what the Celtics did last year in the playoffs. They took LeBron-led Cavs to task. I think it went 7 games, correct?
That's right. And that was without Kyrie and Hayward.
Without Kyrie, without Hayward, and they showed that these young rookies are talented. Jaylen Brown, what's the other one?
Jason Tatum.
Yeah. They absolutely destroyed. They did their thing, and now we've seen them this year where it's been a lot of, well, who's going to be the leader? Who's going to take the last shot? And that's caused a lot of friction. So we don't know which Celtic team we're going to see in playoffs. Hopefully it's the one that we saw last year, but with the new pieces back and healthy, we don't know what we're going to see from them. So I think this is a real good opportunity for them to get it together. I mean, it is hard to win championships and win games without chemistry.
Exactly.
Very hard.
It's very important. And lead on to my second question, who do you think right now, or actually, I'm sorry, the Warriors. They've won the past 2 championships. They're destined to win their 3rd in a row. How do you feel about that? Are they going to make that, like legit? Like they're going to win 3 championships in a row, or?
It's really scary because apparently Steph Curry's had eye problems his entire career, and he just got them fixed. Like, what's this dude been shooting at? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Now he's going to just be hitting half-court shots like it's free throws. I'm pretty scared about that, but I'm a dreamist. I hope that things can change and we can have another team on top.
Yeah.
I think that the Bucks got a decent shot of that. Giannis is Giannis. He is a freak. He is an amazing player. Shaq gave him the title of Superman, which is NBA players are they got some egos. So for Shaq to be like, look, this young rookie, he's not a rookie, this young buck, he is better than me. And we know how good Shaq was.
That's a lot. It's a lot to say.
A lot of praise there. So I really think Giannis is going to come to his own, and he's done well in playoffs, but he hasn't just blown up in playoffs. I think this is the year he blows up. He's got great shooters around him to get him open looks inside the paint, one-on-one matchups where he can dominate. So I like the Bucks being maybe a little bit of an upset.
Yeah, I actually did see on Sportsline their article. Right now, the Warriors are 70% favorites to win the title, and the next best being, like you said, the Milwaukee Bucks, 8%. I think the next would be like 6%. I think Toronto possibly, but in that case, are there any other teams, maybe other than the Bucks, that have a chance at contesting with this All-Star Warrior team?
Well, the 76ers have an amazing team. I just don't know if it's going to click for them in playoffs. I mean, they're still young. I don't know. I just don't see it happening yet.
Yeah.
I would love to be proven wrong because I really like their team. I think it's a great squad. Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid. I mean, Ben Simmons, they've been doing great, but I just don't see it clicking. The Rockets, I mean, they took Golden State to task in that playoff series last year. It went 7 games as well. And honestly, if they just shoot 30% in that last game from 3, they win it. I mean, they jacked up so many shots.
Well, to be fair, they were missing their key point guard, Chris Paul, in games 6 and 7. So.
And that's what he's back.
He's back now.
That could be really scary for the Warriors, especially if they're, I mean, if you win that much, you're going to get complacent, even if you're the most competitive guy in the world. So I think that having that mindset could prove troublesome if they have to run into the Rockets.
I actually think the Oklahoma City Thunder are worth talking about too, because Paul George has had an MVP season, even though he's not going to win it because Giannis is the clear favorite and the next being James Harden. But Paul George has improved immensely, and he is actually made that Thunder team his team now. It was Westbrook's, I guess you could say, maybe last year when he had PG and Melo. But yeah, Westbrook and Paul George are clicking right now. And like you said, team chemistry is where it's at, and that's what wins championships, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But how do you feel Westbrook will kind of be with that? I mean, especially in the clutch 2-minute because we remember KD and Westbrook had a lot of trouble down the stretch. They blew that they had a 3-1?
3-1, yeah.
3-1 over Golden State, and then it was just like KD, Westbrook, they were just battling each other on the court trying to figure out who was going to win the last game for them.
Yeah.
So do you think that could be an issue with With
I don't, because
You
Paul
don't?
George is not Kevin Durant. It's a different player. That's why. Paul George is he's composed, and I really do think they have a stronger relationship than Westbrook and KD had to begin with. So I think that going forward is going to have a lot of success going for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really like the Rockets, or not the Rockets.
The Bucks.
No.
No?
What are we just talking about?
The Thunder.
The Thunder.
Yes.
I'm losing my mind here. I would really like them to win because, like, they're honestly the Bills of basketball right now. Because I mean,
Interesting.
they went. It's basically like they went to 4 Super Bowls in a row and lost because they had so much talent.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a 30 for 30 about all the talent that they have lost out of that organization. So if they could somehow just pull one out of their hats, I mean, that would just be amazing.
All right. Well, anytime. Or thanks again for joining my show today, guys.
Anytime.
I'm afraid to announce that's gonna have to be it. We're gonna have to ramp up this baby right here. Okay. So thanks again for joining on the show, and thank you for tuning in, guys. And we will see you next week.